This is iRacing.
Welcome to the iRacing Happy Hour. Once again, we are back here, but this time it is for a different vintage series this month. I'm Joe Peak, and with me is Devin Hendry here at Okayama International Circuit for coverage of the Kamel GT series. This is going to be a fun one because not only do we have classic cars here, but we have multi-class racing. Devin, this one tends to be a little bit of a wild one, but to me, one of the most fun series to watch here on iRacing.
I think just about everybody, Joe, loves the word vintage in race car driving because it means you get to bring out some of the old good emotions of watching racing back when you fell in love with the sport. And now on iRacing, you get to jump into those cars and try your own hand at them as well. And when you look at what we have here, dating back to the late 80s, and cars that were just turn of the century almost early, right, like 10 years early, into these spectacular automobiles of speed, cornering. I mean, this was a change of speed literally for the world of automobile racing when you come to these GT cars, and now we get to see them on iRacing as well over the past few years. It's just been great.
Absolutely, and if you want to get in on the fun, don't forget we have 50% off all new memberships and 25% off renewals for Black Friday. Make sure and take advantage of this if you can. I actually have myself. I renewed my iRacing account because definitely this is one of the best deals that you can have over the course of the year, and that's for 12 and 24-month renewals. And of course, for information on how to start your iRacing career, log on to iRacing.com today to see how you can get going here on this fantastic service. Now, we also have a new game out from iRacing, and that is the World of Outlaws Dirt Racing, available now on Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, and then, of course, the PS4 and PS5. I've heard lots of incredible things, and it sounds like a ton of fun if you are into the circle track with dirt cars. World of Outlaws CarQuest also is there if you're into that. The Auto Parts Sprint Car Series comes November 28th, 2022. That'll be race one at Volusia Speedway Park. So the start of the new season kicking off here in very little time here on iRacing. So definitely tune in for that because that is going to be plenty of action out on track, just like the real thing. But as for what we have here today with Okayama, Devin, what are we in for with this Japanese track?
Well, Okayama has been open for many decades now and has become a favorite in Japan. Just under 2.5 miles and under 4 kilometers. This 11-turn course is going to force these drivers to really enter these corners with a lot of speed into a lot of braking, a lot of hairpins here, as these guys will be going up and down throughout this entirety of the course. And the elevation here, having to move up and down, it's nearly 1,000 feet here. And so this track right here is going to give these cars with some really high speed a lot of troubles on corners, able to get themselves slowed down and have marginalized corners to the best of their ability.
As we hop on board one of the Audi 90s, two very unique cars, not much else on the iRacing service like these things. And this is one of the few also, Devin, that has four-wheel drive, and I think that's going to be a significant part considering how many slow turns we have around here.
Absolutely. Let's take a listen in here about how these guys are able to drive into these corners. Here's the Audi 90.
On board with Andreas Schuster that we've been listening to and watching one of his qualifying laps. In fact, I think this is his outlap. Indeed, it is. as he kicks it off down into the first corner. Love the sound of the turbo and the engine on this thing that iRacing has managed to recreate. But you can see these are some of the fewer medium speed corners that we've got here, Devin, and then basically it's into a lot of slow turns. So we'll see how these Audis fare throughout the field, but also not just on their own. They've got to deal with the faster Nissan as well, Devin.
Exactly, and there's not a lot of long straightaways here. You have a group between Atwood and Hairpin to be able to kind of make your moves there so that you don't have to force passes in the Hairpin, in the Revolver, in the Piper, and all that section that you're going to have in the middle of this track where it's just constant turning. You only have a couple of straightaways to really take the speed of the Nissan and try to pass these Audis. Otherwise, you're going to be in a ton of congestion all race long. This is 40 minutes. We're going to have just shy of 40 cars on track. This is going to get exuberant very quickly.
There's Matthias Hofdahl. He's taken a number of wins in this series before in that number 3. So he's going to be one to watch out for. And his first lap is a 1:16.3. That's going to be good enough for provisional pole by about half a second over Theo Schleret. But it looks like we still have a good chunk of the field that needs to put a time in. That qualifying position probably not going to be as important. I think survival is going to be the key here today as we hop on board with them. The other thing is we do the lap here behind Matthias, Devin, is that these cars I think are some of the most visceral here in the sim.
Yeah, and you're going to have yourselves, I mean, just look at this corner right here. When you drive in here, so many 180s or at least anything over 90, you have to really recalculate how much braking that you need as these tires are going to wear off throughout the course of the event as well. And look at just how hard he's hitting these corners, whether it be on entry, when you're trying to exit. These guys have to readjust so much throughout the course of this 40-minute event to make sure that they are going through these corners at maximum speed, dependent on what the tires underneath them are giving them. And you see already all the overcorrecting. Obviously, this is qualifying. You're laying it all down on the line. But you can't race like this for 40 minutes in these throwback cars, Joe. You got to be able to pace yourself through those 40 minutes.
So we hop over back onto one of the Audis once again. And to give you an idea, when I talked about a bit of chaos out there and trying to survive, the reason I say that is as we come through down out of Piper here, Leskala, who tends to be on pole most times, is not right now. He's 10 seconds off of Hovdahl's pole time. 10 seconds difference, and these guys are still running less than a minute and a half around here. So they are going to have a massive pace difference. Let's see if Yuko can overtake Karadine Boafia, who is back once again. I haven't seen his face out here in quite some time. Leskala tends to take multiple wins throughout a season in these cars here, Devin, so I think he's going to be eager to overtake the number 18.
And to your point, Joe, for some of you guys either new to iRacing or don't really know a lot about the ins and outs, is the fact that these are official sessions. So these are official races that you have pop up throughout the day, every single day. This race in particular shows up once every other hour, every even hour you can race in the series. And every series has its own points championship that you can actually race for. You get a certificate at the end of the year. I've, granted, never gotten one of those, but it's another little intricate piece of iRacing where you're able to go out in these official lobbies where they try to group you based on driver talent and skill levels, and then you're able to go out and actually run for an official championship, if you will, in every single series in iRacing that they run official.
Indeed, and one cool thing about the Kamel series is it's very close-knit. It's almost described as almost a bit like a league that goes official. A lot of the vintage series are like that. It's, again, want to remind you about we have a Black Friday sale going on here on iRacing if you want to get involved in this, and definitely sign up if you can. But the league nature means that they actually organize their own private championship as well internally that they keep track of and that I've had the honor of covering for a lot of years. But so there's two different things that you can try and compete for that you have the option to if you so desire. But the official one, obviously, everybody who runs these races can get involved with, as it looks like 34 having a little trouble with that turbo there. That's Vinny Fage, who finds himself spinning up through Redmond and Hobbs. So just about a minute and a half left, and we're missing what looks to be about 5 drivers on the timing sheets. In fact, a number of them are the Nissans, but the good thing is they do grid them by class here, so they're going to be gridded ahead of the GTOs.
And we are going to be split almost a full 50-50 field. It looks like we're going to have maybe 3 or 4 more of the Nissans compared to the Audis, but that means that we're going to have 2 very even classes, and when you have to have those Nissans start to run through lap traffic and you have to deal with what's going to be, I don't know, 17, maybe 18 Audis at one time, I mean, we're going to have such changes of pace between these cars. And we saw earlier one of those Nissans spinning on the X of the corner. That's just trying to get back onto that throttle, nice and tight, try to get back into your aggressive nature to try to get as much speed as you can, especially once you are coming out of Atwood or out of the last corner to have yourself a good burst down the straightaway. We're going to see guys get really aggressive on that throttle, lose those rear tires, or even like that. All you have to do sometimes is just touch the grass, and it will want to pull those rear tires out from under you. So many mistakes can be made in what is a somewhat narrow Okayama International Circuit.
Yeah, this isn't the largest of tracks. It's kind of amazing that it did hold a couple of top-end open wheel races earlier on in the season, but it looks like, I think, qualifying is just about wrapped up in the next 15 seconds because I do not see anybody able to set a time from here. So I suppose our grid is set, and as like you said, we have a pretty even split. It's going to be fascinating to see how the two of them interact here once we get to the green flag. But on the top, it is Matthias Hovdahl with Lepisto to his outside, Schleret with Olsen on the next row, Grau and Jack Wells will round out row number 3 here of our first view in the GTP. Sintez Galindo and Gamek will be ahead of Vicens and Arribas. And you've got Kramer and Medell rounding out the next couple of positions. Once you get down to 13th, it's Eloy Gomez, Craig Tillotson, and Lezine, followed by Cooper in the last of your prototype field. What about the GTOs here, Devin?
Well, we got Bofia. He will be on pole for these GTOs. Leskala will be taking the second position. Miller and Kosovo will be in that next group there. Schuster and Cloud making up the first 3 rows. Haycox and Hamill-Smith making up row number 4, followed up by Porter and Schaefer, Laskin and Godin in that next row there. Row number 7 made up of Cameron and Jockman. McLean and Ketzer make up the next row. Last of this group in the Audis will be Tino Jackman. That will be all of your cars here for this group here.
This is an atypical time for them to run a race, as they tend to organize strength of field splits, big participation, but a lot of familiar names are out here today. I'm really glad to see some familiar faces, and we'll see how they fare against some newcomers that may have had experience in Kamel GT, but not necessarily against some of these racers out here today who are lining up, which it's not going to be a full pace lap. They'll start here just before they get into Redmond. They'll swing through Hobbs, Mike Knight, and the final corner, and then they'll be off on their way for 40 minutes out there. Hovdahl and Lepisto have been 2 of the fast runners. Both have taken wins so far in this season, so it'll be a real battle. Schleret in there as well, and Laust Olsen. Now, Laust has been quick at times, but he's been a little bit mistake prone, so look out for him. Buafi and Leskala down in the GTOs. That is a battle of titans. Those 2 drivers, despite the iRating difference, Devin, I can't tell you how many times I've seen them run away from everybody else out there.
And that's one thing I try to tell anyone on iRacing. Yes, iRating kind of demands who is where on top of the order of skill levels, but it doesn't mean everything because it goes across so many different disciplines of racing, if you will, when it comes to like road course racing and stuff like that. Anyone can typically win on any given day if they're able to get everything down.
You see our temperatures for today, 110 Fahrenheit on the track. No wonder we saw some drivers slipping and sliding around because it is going to be a bit greasy with such high temperatures on the track surface itself, despite very cool air temperatures at only 76. Pace car is in. Hovdahl comes around the final corner, and he is on it immediately. Green flag is out, and he gets a very good jump over Schleret. In fact, Lepisto is going to slip down into third as they come down into the first corner. And behind them, it looks like we now have our start for the GTOs as well, Devin.
GTOs not scattering quite as much as we did here in these Nissans, and the Audis are going to attack turn number 1 here with a couple of drivers kind of separating themselves from the field as Leska and Bofia is trying to get away from everyone.
You can see up at the top, bit of a battle there between Farron Grau and Laust Olsen coming into Atwood, but it looks like Farron Grau is going to be able to come out with that. That was for the 4th position. Flying down the backstretch, down to the hairpin for the first time. Hovdahl well ahead of them. Laust Olsen going to try and get back at Farron, but can't quite get to the inside of him. Mostly single file here in the prototypes. Looks like the battle is on down there in the GTOs, though, Devin.
Yeah, Leskala has been all over the rear bumper of Bofia so far, now trying to peek to the inside here, and we'll see if they're able to make any magic work as they go into the hairpin for the first time here. Unable to really find that mark, but again, Joe, this is going to be a 40-minute race. You can't waste all of your tires right here. Everyone can make it on fuel to the end of this event, so you have to be patient to make sure you get those moves right and not wear down those tires too early.
Leskala, the Finn, is making sure to keep on top of Bofia here at the start. We've already completed lap 1 for the prototypes. They're coming down the main straight. Olsen's going from attack to defense as he's got Sintez Galindo, the teammate of Farron Grau, really hassling him coming through the first corner. Back through Williams now off camber turn, but they both keep it out of the dirt. He could still try and get him coming into Atwood as they swing through the Moss S. No dice quite this time.
And sometimes that's what you need to do is you're also looking at the GTOs with these Audis on the bottom part of your screen, just applying pressure to different drivers. Force them into a mistake. Don't be overutilizing your machine in order to try to pass someone. Sometimes applying that pressure on the rear bumper and hassling someone can make your move so much easier and so much less complex to get yourself where you need to be, as Bofia and Leskala continue to move themselves away from the rest of this GTO field.
Yeah, this is still for that top spot here down in the GTOs. Leskala, does he try something down to the hairpin? He's forcing a bit of defense from Kiradine, who's going to keep the inside coming down to the hairpin. Can he use that four-wheel drive around the banking on the outside? No, he cannot. Before they get into Revolver, he has to slip back into second place. But boy, is he making a race out of this, and they're already dropping Reed Miller behind them. You can see on our camera shots, you barely get a flash of him before they switch. He's about a second and a half behind.
And you can already see one of these Nissans jumping back into the equation. That's Kramer, who had a first lap incident. Right now he is between second and third for these GTOs, and so you're going to see that Nissan going to try and pass both Bofia and also Leskala here soon, because every position matters, and if there are more issues up front with the Nissans, that gives Kramer another opportunity to pass more cars later on. So he wants to get this pass done quickly, and it's not going to be a good opportunity here going into turn 1. I don't know if he's going to get this completed.
Yeah, that car trying to get back to his class, and does cause a little bit of consternation there for Kiradine. Leskala now going to try and cut back underneath as he forced him to take a shallow line into Williams. Still can't quite get past him. Sticks with it as we continue to watch up above. That's still a battle down in the GTPs coming into Redmond there, with Schleret being chased by Lepisto for second place. They have lost touch with Hovdal. He has just scampered away up ahead of them. Let's see, there's another look from Leskala down into the hairpin, but despite a lesser defense from Kiradine, he still cannot manage to get through. This has been intense stuff, and we still haven't seen the classes start to intermingle yet.
Yeah, and right now we're getting closer and closer as the back end of the Audis is now entering the hairpin. You have your leader of Hadval right now beginning to go towards Atwood, not close yet, but they're almost just that one straightaway away between Atwood and hairpin away from intersecting one another. So we are less than 5 minutes into this race. It's coming eventually.
No doubt. And we had a spot car that they went by there in the GTOs. That was Kramer in the Nissans, who seems to be struggling a little bit today. This is not a track that favors that Nissan with so many slow hairpins and it taking its downforce from ground effects where it needs that high speed. As up at the front of the prototypes, Lorray in the orange and blue, Lepisto in the blue and white. They've also got Farron Grau still behind them as well, keeping it somewhat tight, but not nearly as tight as what we've seen in the GTOs for that top spot. We now go full screen with our GTPs. Let's listen with this Nissan as to what it sounds like with that turbo. There you see our Nissan leaders starting to hit some of the traffic. Hovdal has it up to about 4 seconds. That should give him a little bit of a buffer to try and make good decisions here in the midst of things, but not so with that battle between Schleret, Lepisto, and Grau. They have just less than a second between them, and they are catching up to the tail end of the Audis.
Good decisions is a very large phrase there, Joe. I don't know how often I make good decisions in the cockpit. When you're having to come up on slow traffic like this, you already see how it's messing them up on corner exit. It's not a matter of how you pass these cars. It's a matter of how you attack at these cars at the right places, because you don't get to choose where you pass them sometimes. You have to pass that Audi wherever you catch it, otherwise you are losing positions and time on track. If you take a look back now, this is your GTO leaders. They are still just duking it out here. I don't think that Forfia has been able to get a single step on Leskala so far during this entire match.
No, he's kind of prodded a couple times. He's managed to get side by side coming up to hairpin, which we have after this corner down at the end of the backstretch, but has not really been truly in front of him quite yet. Not sure if he's biding his time, hoping for an opening once the leaders and the prototypes come through. Yes, didn't even stick his nose out there, just holding in behind. Look how close he's getting, though. He is really reminding that 18 that he's there.
It's about a 5-second interval between these two right here and your third place driver in the Audis, Reed and Miller, so they have a lot of room to work with, and they can only extend their lead and make this a battle between the two of them. Eventually for the win once we get down closer, but we still have 31.5 minutes to go. And you have to wonder what's going to happen once the Nissans begin to really jump into the fray, because eventually they're probably going to catch these GTO leaders. So how is that going to affect this battle for the lead if they continue to be neck and neck like this? As we see more issues for Audis right in front of these Nissans.
Yeah, I think that was Doug Cloud, who just had a little bit of an off coming out of Piper, but he got it back on the racetrack in time. Look at that around the outside of Gaudin. Grau making a little bit of contact there on the left-hand side of your screen, but gets away with it. But those are the tight margins that you tend to see. Antti Lepisto in the middle of them, grateful for that hold-up, so he no longer has the pressure from behind, but now he's got to gather up on Schleret now that he can focus forward, and he doesn't have as many of the GTOs in front of him. They're about halfway through the field. Cam Porter, another regular, is up next. He's in a battle with Hamill Smith, so he's going to be distracted by the time they reach him.
And this battle for second continues to creep up on more Audis as this race continues on, and it doesn't matter what discipline of racing you come from. Catching lap traffic can be oh so scary as they catch a couple of more of these GTOs now. You just have to be able to be relaxed when you go by them, but you never know. You have to try to anticipate what they might be thinking, because they are in a battle for their own race. It doesn't matter if you're talking NASCAR, it doesn't matter if you're talking these cars. Everyone is always in their own battle, and you have to respect that as much as you can, while also knowing I am the faster car.
So that's our GTP leader of Hovdal going by Reed Miller and Ian Haycox, who are battling for third. Now, Haycox is an interesting story as we get a good sense of the closing speed, because Ian Haycox is actually a driver who is running on an adapted rig because he was in a motorcycle accident a few months ago, earlier this year. He has one leg now because the other was amputated and has since kept up the speed. He was back literally within weeks after his surgery on that adapted rig and didn't lose a lick of speed, and has taken multiple podiums since. An inspiring story there for Ian Haycox, but can he get on the podium today with Reed Miller just in front of him? That is Ian in the green cars. We come back to the battle in the prototypes, and it has gotten more frantic.
Yeah, frantic is definitely a word that you're going to utilize when you're battling in these Kamel GT machines, whether you're using the Nissan or the Audis. They continue to pass some lap traffic here with these GTOs on the outside lane. This is another group like we see the leaders in GTO with these Nissans, not battling for the lead, but battling up front in their group as well as they continue trying to make some passes. And boy, frantic is the word right now between these three.
Look at those moves back and forth. Schleret is trying to cover off everything he can. Lepisto goes a little bit deep. Farron's going to try and get underneath him. They're side by side coming down into Revolver, but Lepisto will hold the day and he stays ahead. But now he's starting to feel the taste once again of what it's like to have to battle in front and behind at the same time.
And this is happening 5 seconds behind Hovdal to make this battle something. This is the second place battle here, and they can't mess around too much because Olsen in the 5th position is not too far behind.
Back down the hill once again into the final corner and onto the front stretch. They've held station. It's amazing we haven't seen any changes of position for these three. They haven't been more than about a second apart from one another for the entire race, and we're already more than a quarter of the way through here, Devin. Speaking of races that have stayed close, as we look once again back to the top of the GTO field, and here comes that battle for P2, past this battle for the lead in the GTOs.
Look at that closing rate. Malafia's trying to do what he can to be courteous to these Nissans, but again, even in that corner, it slows them down as they all slide on by. But man, that puts you on the edge of your seat there as you see the battle for the lead getting caught up by those Nissans there, and it's only going to get worse as the pack continues to close in on them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that this series is known for, is when the Nissans come through, it usually breaks apart that GTO battle that you're in. So those ahead would relish them coming through, but it doesn't always. It can be a flip of the coin depending on how you get caught. Right now, it seems like getting caught is Theo Schleret once again. Through the slow corners, Lepisto is strong. He gets close to the back, but coming off, he spins the tires up, and that's going to deny him a chance.
And that's only going to get worse and worse as we still have over 27 or just less than 27 minutes remaining in this race here on this official happy hour. You're going to have these tires continue to degrade more and more, and you have to take care of those rear tires as you're trying to really put down that power on corner exit to get a burst down that straightaway, sometimes as minor as they may be, to get that extra bump on the guy in front of you. Setting up passes here at Okayama does not happen in one corner. You have to have that set up throughout multiple corners because of how short these straightaways are, and that all starts with how you exit that past corner.
If our audience is enjoying this, let me tell you, after 5 years of covering this series, I can attest this is actually a calmer race in the pantheon of Kamel races, and this is still some great stuff that we're witnessing. Lepisto, again, seems to be good on some of the corner entries as he closes in on Schleret, braking hard down into Hairpin and Revolver. This is where the track really tightens up. It gets very fiddly through this part, and there's a lot of the elevation change coming through here. Last time he had the wheel spin. Let's see if he's learned his lesson, as it looks like Schleret is going to go a little wide in the first corner.
Looks like nothing there to dig into, but these cars are going to continue to evolve. Remember, you will not need to have any sort of pit stops here. So we're going to take a look back at some of that frantic action that you've been talking about, Joe.
Looks like we got a couple replays, so let's take a look at Kamel GT's action. One of our GTOs here coming into the first corner, maybe cut off a bit, and he tries to dive it in, locked it up, sends one of the prototypes off into the gravel, and I'm sure they are grateful that that's one of the corners where you do have some space to run off. And another one for the 15, as that's Doug Cloud finding himself, oh, and he's joined by a friend there. Not sure what exactly happened. We've got yet more action coming out of Atwood Corner into the run towards the hairpin. Ooh, did we finally get a pass for Lepisto? Looks like as he sends it in there is actually, no, excuse me, I think we are live now with them as they come through that right-hander and down the hill once again. So Schleret is still ahead, but not by much. Look at him gain mid-corner coming through Piper. This is immense pressure that he's putting on. I got to give credit to the 4 that I haven't really seen him slip up yet.
Yeah, Lepisto is definitely playing everything that he can, and in these two's bout, they're actually separating themselves from Grout, that yellow car in the 4th position. I'm also keeping an eye on Olsen, that kind of greenish-reddish car behind him, bluish yellow-greenish, I guess. But he's just kind of been lurking, stalking these 3, battling for the 2nd position in the runner-up spot. Does he have enough to be able to outlast some of these guys in these concluding 24 minutes to get himself atop the podium? He's just kind of been sitting there waiting. Here we go. We still have our battle for GTO. We have not had our Nissans interrupt this battle enough to separate them, as, boy, these guys just continue to go at it. Both Villa and Leskla have just been tremendous so far in this event.
Oh, look at this. He's finally making the move. He got a good run coming off the final corner. Leskala diving to the inside. He's got a little bit of an overlap. Can he get it done? He's going to push him out wide as far as he can, but holding his ground. Buafia holds the nose ahead on the inside. Coming into Williams. He leaves some space, but somehow they don't make contact. Coming out of the left-hander. Now it sends it into Atwood. Another attempt from Leskala as they go wheel to wheel once again through this lap to try and decide the lead in the GTOs, and it's going to come out in Leskala's favor. But it's a drag race now, Devin, as they head down into hairpin.
Bofia got that momentum coming off the corner down one of the longest straightaways on this circuit. Now trying to utilize that outside lane once more. The elevation here forces that 18 car to go up the track, and that might just be enough for Leskala to finally take the lead. It only took over 17 minutes, Joe, but we have a change for the lead in GTO.
He sized that one up to perfection, and he fought for it too. He did not have that easily, and Leskala is now P1. Lafia seemed to hold him at bay for some time, so does he have the pace to keep with him from here as we come back to yet more exciting stuff here in our prototypes? This is lap traffic holding up that battle for P2. They squeeze through all of them, and they are past. They've got some of Klanowska there in the 32. That's within their own class also that they're overtaking in that lap traffic. Olsen has unfortunately lost out from that one. He falls back. In the meantime, Steve McLean stays off to the outside, coming down through the hairpin for them, and they ease through for the second time. They've hit that GTO pack another time running through, so based on that, I believe they're going to lap them about 4 times.
Boy, that is going to be significant, especially if that battle up front in GTO continues to stay as fiery as it has been. But this battle for second, Joe, is happening 9 seconds behind your leader, Matthias Hadval. He has just had a tremendous pace in this event. And on board here with Grau, he just continues to stalk these two. He just can't seem to really pull these cars in as we head back down the first straightaway again. Eventually, this car starts handling a lot more malnourished. He's going to have a rear view mirror full of Olsen because he still has not escaped this battle as well. He's still lurking behind them too.
And the other thing to remember, you talked about worrying about the tires as we watch from Grau's roof cam here, is that the brakes also go away. These are old school brakes in these cars, and iRacing has modeled that, so you do have to take that into account. I'm told by the drivers it levels out somewhat towards the end of the race, but there is a difference in their grip from the beginning to the end.
And depending on how you utilize them throughout an event, all 11 of these corners are pretty high braking zones where at least you need to really punch that brake and utilize it. Depending on how you aggressively brake, you're going to have that fade begin sooner or later depending on the vehicle. As you see, even right there, there's different ways to administer the brake as well. You just saw right there in the brake lights just a little bit of tap, tap, tapping. And then there's also just, of course, jumping on those brakes really hard to get yourself off the corner sooner. So a lot of different ways to have that braking variations. We have more battles here in GTO. This year's the battle for third.
Yep, that is Miller and Haycox at it once again as we watch them on the bottom and that battle for second up at the top, which just can't seem to change, but also can't get away from each other. That was a lot of wheel spin there from Leskala once again, Lepisto rather, I should say, once again. Different fin, Joe, as they come into turn one. No change between Haycox and Reed Miller. These two have raced against each other for years in this series in the GTO class, so they know what to expect between each other. But Miller is one of those that's known as having just a little bit of bad luck. So hopefully he's crossing his fingers and his toes inside that cockpit that it doesn't arise today.
Hey, no better way to shake off some bad luck than doing it on an iRacing official broadcast, so that might help out a little bit. You can shake that off, move that forward as well, but we are just past the halfway point in this event, and you still see just how stacked up some of these prototypes and some of the Audis are as you have more and more loud traffic and a little bit of contact.
Oh, and Grau is going to get into Lepisto in that, and that's going to shake things up behind them. Look at that. That's Sintez Galindo trying to overtake on Laust Olsen in the midst of the chaos. They're going to go 2 by 2 out of Piper, and they still can't get away from one another. Laust Olsen going to have a little bit of an edge ahead. So is Lepisto coming into Redmond. Lepisto finally rebuffs Grau, but Laust Olsen is still wheel to wheel with the teammate of Grau as Sintez Galindo goes the long way around of Hobbs and gets the spot. That's going to move him into 5th. Boy, that took a long time to really erupt into something, but when it did, it was explosive.
And we've not talked about Galindo the entirety of this event, who has now bolstered himself into the 5th position. And this is actually going to be a massive improvement. Even Lepisto has been able to increase his lead over Grau by over half a second. Charette has now increased his lead as well. So now you have an opportunity for someone like Galindo to go forward and try to continue to move forward onto the podium.
So we're going to take a replay here of Sintez Galindo on his perspective of this battle. He'll see it start to erupt, and I wonder if this is what spurred him to try and make that move up here, Devin. Let's see if he sees a bit of the spin. Or is this Grau? No, this is Grau. This is Grau's perspective, and yeah, there's the touch. I think he got away light enough that he shouldn't have damaged the front of the car.
And as so many racers know just how vital the aero importance is to so many of these race cars, whether you're on a long straightaway circuit or one like this that has immense twists and turns, you're going to have the ability to lose so much speed just if you have one fender crumpled up. And these guys aren't done yet. 17 and a half minutes to go. They're not done bolstering for position.
How did Lepisto catch back up to him? It looks like lap traffic helped him, because remember, he lost a lot of time with that little spin, and I was shocked to see him still on top of this second place fight. So as we come down into turn one, let's see if he can try and fight back. We'd probably not be happy about that little bit of contact there, costing him some time and maybe just a hint of damage here. 15 minutes, just a little over 15 minutes left to go to decide it.
And honestly, they should be, I'm not going to say happy, but you see how that wall kind of peaks out right there. Just a little bit more contact and a little bit less loss to the rear end. You might be going into that wall instead of just kind of using that elevation to put yourself back on track. More of these Audis continue to find themselves in the midst of this battle for podium position. And you see the tire smoke there as they slide back up the track, and here comes Grau for a spot.
Yeah, this time it was his own mistake there. Lepisto locking him up, coming into hairpin. Grau and Sintez Galindo, they got to be careful because Jack Wells is also approaching. Just talking about the teammates there of Sintez Galindo and Grau. Jack Wells, teammate actually to one of our producers behind the scenes here on the broadcast. But no partiality here. He's going to have to work hard for this on Happy Hour, and he's got a veritable buffet up ahead of him.
On board, Jack Wells looking ahead, trying to go around this Audi. This is a lap machine here, and not going to be able to get the space, and there's a car around in front.
Yeah, that's Hamel Smith. He got absolutely hip-checked to the side by one of our GTPs. Thankfully did not hit the wall, and I don't think anybody else in the process. Look at the closing speed as we ran there on board, under braking, just getting the car into the corner over one of those slower class cars. But once again, it breaks things up slightly, but not entirely in that battle for P2. Looks like Lepisto is now about 2 seconds behind Schleret. And we're going to take a look at the replay for Hamel Smith on what happened. We saw just a little bit of it up ahead. And is this going to be Grau? I believe so.
That's all it takes. Unfortunate for both of those drivers that it does not wrinkle up any fenders more than already was going down into the front straightaway. And with how narrow that front straightaway can be with the walls, I'm surprised that no one got any wall contact there. Could have been much worse.
This has been a little bit more like what we usually see at Camel here.
Final half.
Yeah, it's picking up the pace for sure. Around the outside, unfortunately, Schuster causing Sintez Galindo a little bit of headache there, having him cost some time through Hobbs, but he minimizes the damage, and he's going to stick with Farron Grau for that battle for fourth and third. It's no longer a battle for second, though. Schleret is off to the distance, but we've seen the gap go down because of lap traffic, so don't give up hope if you're cheering for Lepisto, Grau, or Sintez Galindo to catch that P2 car.
And Lepisto's going to be the one with the target on his back, right? You want to hop up on top of that podium. Grau is still there, Galindo's still there, and you mentioned how Wells has been catching up to this battle as well. He's kind of begun to lose the pace a little bit, as has Laus Olsen, so there's still at least 3 cars with a good opportunity to wind up atop the podium here.
If you're wondering how things are going with the GTO leaders, Buafia has been holding station. It's about a second behind Lescalo, though, that as he made a little mistake there coming out of Hyper. But Buafia coming in from the South African club, a bit of more of a rare club that you don't see as much, but really holding his own. Just needs to get closer, though, if he wants to try and attack on that number one once again. And oh man, he's slipping away once again here. So I wonder if Pyridine is finding the tires going off a little bit if he used them up there in that battle that he had with the Finn.
But I tell you what, this has been a good recovery drive. He was over 2 seconds behind and is now shrunken that lead to about a second. A reminder for anyone who wants to hop into either of these cars or much more, 50% off of all new memberships here on iRacing.com or 25% off renewals and reactivation to 12 or 24 months. And just a secret I can tell all of you guys for a fact, I have never renewed iRacing, not during the Black Friday discount. I've always been able to utilize this Black Friday discount to get yourself kind of the best deal on a 1 year or 2 year plan. So this is the time of year where I do my renewals.
Same. I'm exactly the same. I don't think I've ever renewed at any other time of the year. It's been their best during any time of the year offer that they give up to anybody trying to join in. As we now watch drivers come down through Revolver. We do have some more action coming up with other series, as we have the NASCAR International Series coming up at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, better known to most race fans as Mosport. The D-Box NASCAR, eNASCAR International iRacing Series, powered by Digital Motorsports, puts on phenomenal stuff with road course racing, so definitely tune in to that one. And then, of course, the NASCAR College Series as well. The eNASCAR College iRacing Series returns for the fall after a short break at Nashville Superspeedway for round 4. And then we've got yet more for the eNASCAR Road to Pro Contender iRacing Series, also at Nashville Superspeedway. So a pair of NASCAR races heading off down to Music City to try their trade at a track that has gone away and come back to stock car racing in recent years. Look for that one on November 29th here in a week or so. Well then, we've now got only 11 minutes, the final quarter of the race here, Devin. Things separating just a little bit, but not a lot. However, for the leaders, 17 seconds for the GTPs, and then P2 down to third. For the GTOs, another 18 seconds from Boafia to Miller. It has been unbelievable pace for your top runners.
Yeah, Boafia is not done yet, so him and Lesklar are still going to have something to settle here at the tail end of this event. But how about Matthias Havdahl having now beyond a 17-second advantage? He has been the class of this field, so much so that, I mean, how often do you not talk about the leader, right? I mean, he hasn't had trouble with lap traffic. He hasn't had trouble with any other competitors. I mean, Havdahl has just been downright tremendous in this event so far.
Meanwhile, just behind him, you can still see guys like Lepisto and Sintez Galindo having trouble with the lap traffic. And honestly, that's what I've seen over the years here, Devin. It's not necessarily that outright pace. I'm willing to bet that a lot of Havdahl's gap that you see right now is down to what you're seeing these guys doing, and that's navigating that slower class.
Exactly, and it's even worse when we've had that battle for the second position for the overwhelming majority of this race, right? Meanwhile, Havdahl, he's going one-on-one with those lappers, or maybe they're in a battle of their own, and they're kind of moving inside because he's the leader. Well, you don't really have that luxury when you're battling for second with 3 other cars on the track, and now you're catching lap traffic. So Havdahl has been able to have that opportunity to be able to just go out there and pass the lap cars on this Japanese circuit. The other guys are fighting each other while also trying to fight lap traffic, and it causes a massive mess at times.
Now, Sintez Galindo just went by Grau, and I mentioned earlier that they're teammates. They've said in the past that at times Farron is willing to give up spots to help Sintez Galindo in his championship hopes. I wonder if that was that call right there, because we haven't seen Grau as much this season, and Sintez Galindo is in the hunt.
We still got a minute to go, though, Joe. I mean, we got 9.5 still remaining, and by no means has Lost Olson or Jack Wells exited the equation as well. So there's a chance that they can still come up here and pass a few more cars, as everyone still wants to find themselves atop that podium. Lespido is still a little bit ahead, but not by much over Galindo.
Yeah, it's been very tight here for much of the race, but we have more racing to come. Not just what we described earlier. IMSA is going to be back on Race Spot, the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship at Daytona. What a place to go for that. Probably the crown jewel of IMSA racing. And that'll be November 20th on 2022. They have put on spectacular races here on iRacing in the virtual realm. And you can see they've had awesome stuff both at places such as Indianapolis and Road Atlanta, like we see here, 3 wide down through the chicane with multiple classes, and still they managed to come out the other side. That's the sort of stuff that you're going to get to see. And man, still 3 wide as they came down the front stretch to decide that battle. Meanwhile, sticking with it, Laust Olsen is trying to fend off Farrengrau. He must have just recently got by, actually, so Laust is now into the top 5. And Farren, maybe that wasn't a team call there. I wonder if the 13 has some sort of damage that we missed, Devin, and is now struggling for pace.
He can have damage, he can have tire wear, he can have brake fade. It could be a variety of things when you have this Japanese circuit muscling these cars around the track and you're in the final 740 of what has been now almost a 35-minute event at this course. And so Olsen, who has been stalking the battle for second, the overwhelmingly majority of the race, has an opportunity maybe to run his way up to that provisional podium position.
Oh, but look, it's not over. Sintez Galindo is now on Lepisto. He's caught him up. Oh, and Lepisto's damaged. The right front of the car, driver's right front, looks like it is bent up, and on the straightaway, Sintez Galindo made him look like he was standing still. Something must have happened. Looks like we've also had a problem with the 18 car. That is for Kiradine Buafia. So he's now down in 4th. There he is in the circle. Let's see. This is coming up into Williams. Oh, and this was, a hardware issue. Just like in real life where the cars can have things break. Even though in the sim, the car itself doesn't break, your hardware with your computer, Devin, kind of takes that place.
Absolutely gut-wrenching as he was back in that battle for the lead, and Buafia now is just completely having to obliterate any opportunity that he has at going for a victory here in this Audi class. Meanwhile, more and more trouble sometimes for more of these drivers as you see more and more beat-up Nissans throughout the course of this event and continue to show up. So, but boy, that is gut-wrenching for Buafia as he had an opportunity there maybe to take down Leskala after what has been a tremendous battle for them in the GTOs.
Yeah, this is Lepisto on your screen in the 2. Last lap is a 1:22, and he's been running 1:20s, 1:19s for most of the race. So I do think he's trying to limp this thing home and is unlikely to catch up to Sintez Galindo or Schleret. Actually, when did Sintez Galindo catch up to Schleret? Look at that here on screen now. He is all over the back of the number 4, trying to get P2, and that lap traffic is not doing any favors, unfortunately, for the Frenchman.
Schleret in the orange machine, Galindo in that white machine, and this is the battle for second. Yeah, I'm surprised that Schleret is actually having to battle anyone at this point after the gap that he was able to accumulate, but now Galindo with an opportunity, still a lot of lap traffic.
So Sintez Galindo just behind him, watching the lap traffic pull out of the way. Gomez going to just try and let them by. Good sportsmanship there from the number 30, but it doesn't open the door for Sintez Galindo quite yet. What about Gaudin as they come down through 1 and 2? Now we've got a replay, I think, for Lepisto and potentially where he got that damage. We already see it on the right-hand side, and that just apparently made it worse. Wow, all along the right-hand side of the car with that touch that he made. And that explains why he suddenly is lacking pace.
That's unfortunate. That's another part of battling these lappers is, boy, this battle for second continues to heat up, Joe.
And Sintez Galindo is really fired up himself. He's going to try and send it in down into the hairpin. But Theo, good on the brakes, is going to hold him off for now. 5 more minutes. Can the 4 manage to keep him behind? He did it for this entire race, and now that Aitor has been unleashed, Devin, it looks like this is going to be his hardest rival yet.
Well, you can say that there's still time. 4 minutes left on the clock, but you don't know how much time is left in these automobiles because obviously Galindo has done something to blitz his way up to the second position to battle, but does he have enough left to make a move, stay in front, and then be able to take that second position for good? We'll take a look back at what happened here for one of our Nissan competitors here.
Yeah, this is the 37. This is Rene Rowe. This is a strange place to have an incident down the backstretch. So let's see if he maybe has trouble under braking here, coming down into the hairpin. Oh, yeah, just a little bit deep. Oh, no. Is this Buafia actually that he's making contact with? I think that was. And unfortunately, both of them off into the wall because of it.
Boy, Boafia's luck goes from bad to even worse. It looked like he was going to fight for a win, and now he will most certainly not get on any sort of podium here tonight.
I'm not entirely sure if that was him or not, because we know he had those steering problems. But whatever the case, whoever it was, that was not a fun moment.
He's in third right now, battling Reed Miller for that second position. Look at this.
So that wasn't him. How did he get up into second once again?
I mean, that was a hard lick when he lost the steering wheel, and now an opportunity to get the second position here in these closing 3 minutes.
So apparently he was so far ahead. Yeah, he was so far ahead. 18-second gap. He got it back out on track. Look at the condition of that thing. Now, he gets to show off iRacing's modeling here, but I don't think he quite wanted to do that today. Still, Reed Miller is now having to fight a rearward battle.
Yeah, right now he's looking at a modified who somehow closed in behind him, somehow dressed up as an Audi, and somehow Boafia has been able to make his way forward, and I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but nonetheless, I wouldn't have thought after all that damage that he'd be battling for second, much less a podium spot right now.
I think Audi was looking into getting into NASCAR. Maybe this is their test, as there's an outbraking maneuver as he comes down into the corner, but he sends it too deep. Reed trying to cut back underneath him, but it's the wrong side. Maybe he'll get another one. No. Rear bumper to front bumper there as Security and Boafia parks it at the apex.
Miller said, look, I still have a hood.
And he can use it too. But for now, he's going to have to settle for third. Boafia back up into P2. That's amazing. He must have just, hit reset on that wheel in real life and just gotten back out there and fired the car up. And that is an amazing drive for the 18 to recover to second place here. But I doubt he'll catch Hovdal because we're down to a minute and a half left to go. So we're almost to the end of it. Down in seventh in prototypes. We haven't looked here yet, and it's Gamick and Vicens for that spot. Oh, somebody behind them having some trouble.
I believe that was Grau who got a lick of the grass, then he went sideways, unfortunately, and like you saw earlier, Joe, he was having some struggling issues, and now it's gotten even worse for him as he might fall out of the top 10.
Yeah, he's really not been happy with that car here late in the race. Take a little bit of a glance at the 22. Once again, back to the battle for second place. Sintez Galindo still hasn't gotten it away from Schleray. And we're going to get white flag next time by, it appears, as they're now 25 seconds back, Devin. They're about a third of the lap behind our leader. Big lockup in front of them. Ian Haycox looking like he's having trouble keeping the car underneath him here late in the race. Let's hope this doesn't cause problems here through the twisty bits.
White flag. This will be the final time around Galindo. Last opportunity for him when they come back by the stripe to get himself in position to make this move and claim second here on the day.
He's going to have opportunities, no doubt. So they've got Miller and Boafia still close enough that they constitute a battle for second in the GTOs. So that's going to be two cars that are not going to be pulling off to the side readily to let them through. But I do believe they're going to catch them pretty early as behind. That looked like a bit of an off for somebody. Not quite sure, but Stolson in amongst there is a dive to the inside. Unfortunately does not merit second place for Sintez Galindo quite yet. And now he's going to get plugged up as Schleray has no place to go. But Sintez Galindo also likewise checks up hard.
Still one more car. This is the battle for second in both classes here. This time they're going to be able to get around Boafia pretty easily, and this is going to be the final stretch for both of these cars to claim second.
Miller looks like he lost time in that exchange, so unfortunately falls out of that fight. We also have the battle for Lepisto and Olsen in the background there, but up at the front of it all, Matthias Hovdal, your leader, put it on pole and never looked back from there. Nobody could challenge the Club Scandinavia driver, and with that, he'll take the win here today in the Kamel GT Series. Ooh, slowdown penalty, unfortunately, for Theo Schleray. It looks like he's out of gas, but we also have a winner in the GTO class as Yuko Leskala was drifting it to the line, and somebody's drifting behind him backwards. Not sure who that was, but Leskala will win in GTO as he has done many a time here at Kamel.
Good celebration there. He earned this one, and now here comes the second place battle in GTO as well as Boy, the lap cars never seem to get away from anyone. But boy, that race was exciting.
That was Kiradine taking second. Meanwhile, looks like Gaudin is trying to hold off Hamel-Smith. Both drivers have been trying to battle each other for much of the race. In the prototypes, this is for 10th between Aaron Humphrey and Andrew Medell as they come around the last few corners. This is just ahead of Grau. Are they going to be able to get him time? They are going to go by Theo Schleret, who comes to a halt on the front stretch, but Humphrey will beat out Medell. I wonder if Schleret will be able to drift to the line as, this is down for that 7th spot that I mentioned earlier. We could see a change for Hamel-Smith. No, doesn't quite look like it. Grau's still puttering along, but he's going at about 15 miles an hour, and he looks like he has about 100 feet to get to the finish line. I don't think he is going to manage to see it. He's going to wind up 11th regardless because he's going to be the last one on the lead lap. Oh, this is always the most gutting thing to see. Can he actually make it to the finish? Will someone maybe push him there? He is going to get it at about 12 miles an hour. Oh, wow.
Miraculous.
Devin, I'm so distracted, I forgot your name, Devin. Here's the results as Hovdal takes the win here today. Look at that, 30 seconds over Sintez Galindo, and what a battle that was he had with Grau at the end, as Angelo Pisto will get promoted up to 3rd because of it. Laust Olsen will find himself 4th, and Jack Wells is going to get a top 5. Mark Gamick will be 6th as Vincent P7. Farron Grau, his late race lack of speed sent him to 8th. Aaron Humphrey P9, and Andrew Medell wound up 10th today. After that, Theo Schleret, as I mentioned, crawled all the way to the finish into 11th. Arribas was a lap down with Lazine in the 13th spot. Gomez P14. You've got the rest of the field finishing a lap down to the GTPs. What about the GTOs, Devin?
Well, boy, Joku Leskala just put on a tremendous show. Unfortunate that Balfia was unable to continue to battle out for that Audi victory, but was able to come back for a 2nd place finish after losing his steering wheel. You don't see that every day. Reed Miller was unable to hold off Balfia, but was able to take home a 3rd place finish in the class. Ian Haycox coming home in the 4th position, Schuster in 5th, Cam Porter in the 6th position with Emerson Godin in P7, Jamie Hamel-Smith. They take a look at the rest of our finishers here today in Kamel GT. Boy, a lot of action everywhere across the track, even in the 40th minute there, Joe.
And, well, don't forget, if you want to try and join any of this excitement that we just witnessed, you can sign up for iRacing for the Black Friday sale. And don't forget to take advantage of that because that's one of the best deals you're going to get all year long. I'm Joe Peak, and with me was Devin Henry. And Devin, I'm used to this because I've been covering the Kamel Series for years now. But what did you think of this?
Boy, I think it's just such respectful racing, exciting racing. They had a little bit of everything, but man, all those battles that we saw for whether it be P2 and Nissan or the leaders in the Audis, boy, there's a little bit of action for everyone in that.
Thank you once again for watching the iRacing Happy Hour. We'll join you once again in about a month's time. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.